Greetings to all. This is a session on neo-evolutionism, taking you through a brief background about it. This theory basically emerged in 20th century in order to address the shortcomings of classical evolutionism that was propounded in 19th century. And this theory was essentially criticized by the diffusionist on the grounds of the absence of data and the complete neglect of factors of diffusion, and also to some extent it negated that the human creativity exists or they have an adaptability component to it. Now there's a classification to the scholars who have propounded this theory. It's categorized based on the geographical factor, like we have British school of thought and the American school of thought of neo-evolutionism. The British school of thought was dominated by V. Gordon Childe, and American was by Leslie White and Julian Stewart. Now, there's an assumption to this theory. Basically, the neo-evolutionists believed that the culture develops in form of a parabolic curve. That is, a social institution in a culture will be born in specific form. It evolves into an entirely different direction with a different structure, and it finally moves again towards the original form but in a new developed version of itself. This can be exemplified by the evolution of property, which when first evolved, it started off as a communal ownership. It later evolved into private property, the private ownership, and finally evolved into the initial stage but a more developed form where the communal ownership happened but through the state. Now, one of the pioneers for neo-evolutionist school of thought is Julian Stewart. He was an American anthropologist. As discussed in the evolutionary school of thought in our previous presentation, he has given threefold classifications of evolutionism. He defined it in form of unilinear, universal, and multilinear evolutionary models. But he, in particular, had views on the scheme of multilinear evolutionism. According to his view, all the cultures of the world, they have developed through different stages and not through a similar stage. That's why it's multilinear. The second belief based on that scheme was that the cross-cultural analysis is an important tool to understand and to study the cultural parallels or the cultural regularities across societies. Multilinear evolution was also seen as a methodology to study the culture change with an assumption that the culture parallels exist. And this approach was more of empirical than deductive, as it was based on historical reconstruction, and it does not only subscribe to the view that historical data can be classified into universal stages. In fact, it is determined with this idea of cultural laws. Some of his noted publications are Diffusion and Independent Invention and Theory of Cultural Change. Now, his assumptions on multilinear view has naturally drawn this attention towards this mechanism which involves studying particular culture and then making a cross-cultural generalizations. That is, for instance, how to combine particular with the general. Now, to make this cross-cultural generalization systematically, he analyzed the man-habitat interaction. Into this, we generally call the cultural ecology model. According to this model, not all the features of a given habitat or ecology are relevant to a given socio-cultural system, and nor are all the aspects of a socio-cultural system affected or equally affected by the man-environment interaction. That's the underlying proposition of this model. It means that a culture change is induced by the adaptation to the environment, and the acceptance or rejection of that trait, it depends totally on the local needs or the local ecological conditions. This therefore leaves only the evolutionary component of the socio-cultural system to be analyzed. And to this, Julian Stewart, he called it as culture core, which is more closely related to the economic and subsistent activities. Now, there are some of the criticisms to this model. Firstly, there's another new evolutionist, Leslie White. He essentially criticized it on the grounds that this proposition confuses the evolutionary concept with the discipline of history. Another critique was by Marvin Harris, who also rejected this multilinear view, calling it as a core of confusion. But despite all these critics, the theory was more or less influencing other emerging anthropologists for their works. Like there could be the understanding of understanding of this new evolutionary approach by Julian Stewart that could be seen in Vidyarthi's work, and there are many others. Next pioneer in this school of thought is Leslie White. He again is an American anthropologist, famously known for his advocacy of theories of cultural evolution, especially a new evolutionism. Some of his noted publications are The Science of Culture and The Evolution of Culture. His approach was basically that the culture is primarily a mechanism of harnessing energy, and humans' role, therefore, is to put that energy into work, therefore, in a way, regulating and challenging the human behavior to some extent. It stated that the cultural advances, as the amount of energy is harnessed, it increases, whereas the efficiency of the means of controlling energy is increased. His law of cultural development stated that as the technology becomes more efficient, more energy is captured and utilized, and therefore there's an acceleration process that we see in the process of cultural development. He was criticized on the grounds of overemphasis being laid on techno-economic factors and corresponding to a specific social organization alone, and without having any ethnographic evidence for this, he was that laid the grounds for many critiques. And then Julian Stewart, he labeled his proposition as merely a vague generalization, therefore calling him a mere universal evolutionist instead of a new evolutionist. The third pioneer work was by Gordon Childe. Now, on the basis of his collections on the material remains from Eastern Europe, he has sought to revive this evolutionary scheme. He described the process of social evolution in terms of three events. Firstly, in terms of the food production, the urbanization, and industrialization. Thus, based on these events, he has classified the process of cultural development with respect to the archaeological period. As you can see, in the stage of early Bronze Age, we can he associated the cultural development into civilization form, whereas in the archaeological period of Paleolithic phase, he categorized the cultural development as merely savagery. And it was observed based on the archaeological evidence that he collected from different sites. Now, based on this, he has believed that at every stage, humans advanced with their technological skills, and because of this advancement, they became more and more aggressive towards the environment. But again, he was attracted towards criticisms from his contemporaries. The major criticism, the major shortcoming of his proposition was in terms of the lack of parallels and the similarities from the events that he could correlate outside of Middle East and Europe, from where he collected his archaeological evidences. Moreover, his work was entirely relying on the archaeological evidences, so that was again one of the major shortcomings to his work. There are other contributions, for instance, by Marshall Sahlin and Edmund Service. They're again both the American anthropologists. They have reflected their idea of new evolutionism in their famous book titled Evolution in Culture, which was written in 1960. Now, to both of them, Leslie White and Stewart, they have guided them as teachers, and they were also their colleagues. Now, both of them have combined this theory of Leslie and Stewart to fill up the theoretical gaps, and they recognized that evolution happens in the cultural sphere and it moves simultaneously in two directions. One is the specific evolution and the other is the general evolution. So the specific evolution was referred to a particular sequence of a culture change and the adaptation of a society in a given environment. Essentially, the cultural diversity through this form of evolution is brought by the localized factors, or say let's consider there's some invention and that could lead to evolution. But the second form, that is the general evolution, it refers to a general progress of human society in which the higher forms arise out of the comparatively lower state of its existence. For instance, when we say hunters gatherers, they've progressed to agriculturalists and then the more advanced form of industrialized states. Therefore, the essence here is of the progress and the upgradation. So, more or less, the idea of specific evolution was similar to the Stewart's idea of multilinear evolution, while general evolution, it represented Leslie's idea of universal evolution. So, that's how both of their contributions were merged together. Now, how classical evolutionism is different from new evolutionism. Basically, both of these anthropological schools have sought to understand this nature of human culture, but they certainly emerged on different lines of thoughts. For instance, new evolutionism has emerged in response to the classical evolutionism in 20th century. The classical evolutionism is believed in the unilinear and the sequential forms of development of culture, but on the other hand, new evolutionists, they gave this idea of parabolic evolution and that culture moves in particular direction, then it diverges, and then it returns to the same but a more evolved stage. The classical evolutionists, they believed that cultural traits originated in different societies through parallel inventions, through the psychic unity of mankind, whereas new evolutionists, they rejected this, saying that the evolution has taken through with respect to more objective criteria like the local environment, the technology, the energy, development, etc., which led to, in a way, advancement of culture in the societies. Now, the new evolutionists, to some extent, they accepted this idea of cultural diffusionism or say migration, which led to the spread of traits and the development of culture, but it was totally rejected by the classical evolutionists. The classical evolutionists held the ethnocentric biases towards the Western civilization model. They placed it at the apex level, but the new evolutionists did not consider that biasness, or they were not considering that as a perfect model, right? The classical evolutionists, they relied on the secondary data, except when we have seen the work of L.H. Morgan. But on the other hand, the new evolutionists, they emphasized their theorizations mainly through their field work or their ethnographic or their archaeological findings. So this was a small comparative analysis between the two schools of thoughts. Right, so these are some practice questions. 1. Define the culture ecology model as stated by Julian Stewart. And the second, state differences in theoretical underpinning of classical evolutionism and new evolutionism. Thank you.